Well, hello. It is the 2nd of June, and instead of writing you a love note this week, I thought that I would just pop in here quickly and speak to what the energies of June are inviting us into, and what we can do to really amplify that feeling of connection. My words for June, my sort of power theme for June is truly that, looking at where I have perhaps misabused power, where I am not being in my own power, where I'm leaking energy out to meet the needs of others, and how I can be more vulnerable with that, how I can really soften into my heart and invite you to meet me there, because time is speeding up. Our awakening seems to be quickening, or at least that's sort of been my awareness, that not just was May an intense month with some interesting health challenges with my eyes, but also looking at what I wrote on my vision board that I did in December for the new year, and the card that I pulled for June, which how would I have even known that 6 months ago, that it was really that invitation to immerse myself more into the healing medicine of sound, the sound of my own heartbeat, and how brilliant my body has been up until this Friday, really, in giving me an opportunity to really tune in and listen to my heartbeat, to listen to my soul, by making my eyesight a little bit funky. And it's brought with it a lot of change, a lot of shift, certainly in my own identity, and also in new levels of clarity of aspects around anywhere where I've been feeling unclear or muddy in my life, and also some interesting things that have been happening around relationship. In right relationship, I seem to have chosen to enter into invitations that sounded right. They felt right. The person was saying all the right things, and I was looking for some personal mentoring on certain aspects of this. And yet, when we started, besides the fact that technology was giving issues, there was this sort of feeling of shame that came up again, which made me feel guilty when I'd actually done nothing wrong, but actually speak to the truth of what the deal and the delivery was going to look like. And it was an expensive lesson, because I did lose my money. But the changes have been very obvious for me, to really look at the things that weren't working. And I know that for many of my clients, there's been this sort of element of surprise that's accompanied a lot of this, that your mind may suddenly have become very clear about certain things and allowed you to make changes in your internal garden, in the way that you're showing up, in the way that you're speaking your truth in your relationships and your career and your businesses. But a lot of them have been quite hidden still in the shadows. And I think that for me, this is what June is really inviting us into, that we always have the power of choice, and we can either give ourselves permission to say yes, to do whatever is necessary to make room on the inside, right? To pull out some of the weeds and cut back on some of the dead wood, and readjust and recalibrate to our soul's sort of calling, to our heart song, before we sort of jump in and take the next action or welcome in the next level of energy into our lives. So if you can relate to that, and you're listening to this on the replay or in the newsletter, I'd love to know, what's been going on for you as you sort of look back on the last 5 months of the year, and as we sort of enter into this time of this beautiful 8 energy of June. I love it. It reminds me of the lion heart. Let me know if you're interested in joining the podcast that I'm going to be starting, that really is about women who walk with a lion heart, with that courage to show up and be vulnerable. And that sort of tying into the theme that I wrote down 5 months ago on on my anchors and my stakes of what I wanted to call in this year, that June is very much about that. I've written there, don't let your song, don't die with your song still stuck inside. This is a time we really have to do the inner work and really recommit to being responsible to how we're tending to our internal garden so that we can show up and do our work in the world being ourselves. No more filters, no more veils and smoke screens, but really just showing up in an authentic way. And I know it sounds quite cliche because these words are sort of bandied around, but this is a period right now where we have to do internal shifts. We have to start looking at doing things differently and how we're going to make a fresh start, to manifest in our outer lives everything that matters to us. So don't be surprised if you sort of continue to feel over the next couple of weeks or years, and remember I spoke about this on Truth Bomb Tuesday, that we're entering into the next 7 or 8 years of wounded healer energy, of really starting to look at where do I need to be the mother energy, the nurturing, loving energy of the mother, to grow these child parts that are afraid. Right now, there's this dance and this almost discomfort in sitting in this place where one minute I feel empowered and alive and open and on purpose, and the next minute it's this roller coaster of emotions and this connection to this cosmic soup that's very vulnerable, and where I start feeling very fragile, and then I start to look at getting more curious about how to create my own safety and the safety of my child, and then to the bigger concerns that matter to me, like the heritage, the landscape, the fading landscape of Africa, where so many animals are losing their natural habitat, like the lions and the elephants and all the sentient beings. So just know that there's going to be a very strong push that has been leading up to this sort of 8 energy. I love to see it as this infinity sign where we are all in our right relationship, being the conduit to create the vision, the ether in the north of how we want to have a better world and contribute to a better world, and then grounding it into Mother Earth. And I spoke about how we can use soul team, our spirit guides, to really support us, what I call our team players, in making sure that we commit to not straying or wandering off the path. So, this is, excuse me, I think this is what June energy is all about. This vulnerability and also this deeper exploration of how we're using our own personal power to contribute to the whole. Where are we putting our energy? Into relationships that drain us, suck the joy out of us, or are we tapping into our joy body and asking to connect in to true belonging with the people that resonate with what we want to see us better, and going with them. There is always this sort of vulnerability that I see, and something that I get asked a lot is, how do you get clear on connecting with your own personal power? Because a lot of people have this misidentification in the programming of that being very selfish or very narcissistic. And just like manipulation, there's always the two sides, and then there's what's true and right for you. That's sort of the amalgamation of being able to sit in the shadows and the discomfort of that, and see very clearly that you not showing up and asking for what you want, that's not a service to other people. Who really, you giving your happiness and you sharing your voice and your message is the greatest gift that you can be, in that space of going anyway and allowing everybody else to have their own experience of what they want life to look like. So, there is this vulnerability that I'm feeling to see, where am I safe? Am I connected to the light? Do I belong? And that it's not I suppose it's the letting go. It's not that old kind of power struggle of domination and control over others. This is why I love working with horses, because as prey animals, they have endured so much of our own inner conflict and our own self-harm and our own negative thoughts. And they've carried us and opened up territories to us. So, being able to have one ear on your immediate environment and one ear tuned to the cosmic soup. This is what animals and horses show us. This is also what I love about working with the lions. And I did post again today that the next Journey on Ancient Souls coming up in September. So if you're being called to come and journey in the sacredness of Mother Earth, where these beautiful sentients that are endangered, the lions, the elephants, the cheetahs, where the plants and the trees speak to you, have a look at that. Because this is really a call from this eight Lionsgate portal energy of looking at how do I show up and give in service and be responsible for my life, because I'm responding to things outside of my own little sort of insular I am identity. And how do I contribute to that so that the whole, just like the lion pride, the younger lions have the speed to sort of start the chase. And the older lions come in when that young lion has sort of singled out the dinner for the night, and help her with their wisdom and experience take down so everybody gets to eat. That's a world I want to live in, not this one that's continually, we've become a society or a culture of humans that, we don't think we're enough. And then because of that, we feel like we are not, there isn't enough. And there's this lack and the scarcity that just breeds some fear. So, how can we look at the root of our human suffering for what it is, which is the illusion that we have ever been separate? Our bodies know that they are so connected. We have this incredible innate intelligence, this body wisdom, where the cells are communicating and speaking to each other all the time. And yet we've forgotten that we're interrelated. We are collaborators. We are creators. And we've forgotten that we are of nature. And we need to reclaim our trust and oneness and consciousness and look at how do we show up in a way to cultivate more joy, not just for ourselves, but for the whole. So ask yourself, what do you want to nurture? What do you need to grow in order to rise up to success and personal power? How can you give yourself permission to access your internal resources, your joy body, your healing blueprint, as this incredible opportunity of June and this 8 energy with the 11? I love the 11 energy. That's such a master number on leadership. And the I am that stands in the togetherness, like these two pillars that you can't be separate. We are connected. We are picking up the thoughts, the feelings, the emotions, the horrendous things that are going on in the world, as well as the beauty of all of that, the beautiful journey, that we're being called to focus back and look at how can I be this inspirational messenger. That's the contract we all signed up for, is to be in service for better. So where do you need to recommit to being responsible to your own inner thriving garden? I spend a lot of time in my own sort of teaching looking at that truth, and it makes me realize again and again how it always comes back to the individual journey of mindfulness, that we need to tend to our own garden before we can tend to others. And what's that thing about putting your mask on before you put the mask on others? You can't help if you're running on empty. And it does require us to look very bravely at where are we running away from what we don't want to see, or what we're seeing that we don't like. And I just was right in there again this last week with the sort of impaired vision in my right eye of what am I trying to make right that's actually a wrong? So in other words, where are the lies that I've been buying into that I am, been trying to make right that actually aren't? Because there is no right and wrong. There's only the choice to keep following your North Star. And to do that, you can't keep resting with the ugliness or the chaos or the confusion in yourself. You can't run away from yourself. You can't truly lose yourself. Believe me, I've tried more than once. And, it's through the discomfort, it's through the shadow work, it's through looking at the mother wound and the father wound and the healing of the abandoned child. That's the sort of the foundation of my work, is to get to the root cause of where we stop giving our life force energy to creativity and flexibility in the journey. And to me, that's the point where I see so many of my clients getting stuck exactly there, where we get worn down. Life wears us down, and we end up having so little trust in our own ability to rest, to just be still, to sit in the waiting room, as I call it, with perceived negativity or uncertainty or fear of, oh my gosh, how am I going to put food on the table tomorrow? Because that is a reality for many of us. For many of the people that I speak to, it's a reality. It's not an excuse. And I think that's part of what I dislike about the sort of life transformational industry, is that there's still a lot of shame that's projected back on the person that's asking for help. I had that happen to me last week myself. And then we start to doubt, and then we start to guilt ourselves into something that we're not. And that becomes the suffering. When it's like the bullshit meter goes off, and yet we can't trust ourselves to know that that's what it is and stay in our truth. Whether that's sort of, the paradoxical fuck up of not knowing or knowing and then becoming too afraid and then trying to conform or fit in and do things out there to create this illusion of safety that actually isn't safe. So I'm certainly going to be on this path probably until I leave my physical body. But it really, for me, feels very much again like giving permission to empower myself from that place of vulnerability. It's not a weakness. And, we've heard about this in the Course of Miracles. Everybody talks about it, but are you being it? That's the sort of fierce medicine that I've been giving myself, is am I walking moment to moment as honestly and as authentically and as real and raw as I possibly can? And am I willing to communicate with others without this feeling of shame about exposing my defects? I want to get a t-shirt printed that says under construction. I'll pass on being complete and built. I have ruins, but I'm not ruined. And I want to keep on building. I want to keep reshaping myself in the sort of uncharted waters of this sort of new consciousness. And I'm always going to be half erected and half in shambles, because I'm human. And I want to find some joy in that, being able to laugh at myself and be the joke of my own reality, because oftentimes I'm cute, not bright. And it's okay. It's okay not to know. And there's always this sort of dualism and this sort of internal conflict that goes, do you really believe that? Or are you trying to convince yourself of that? And I just, I truly believe that when we're willing to expose our defects, when we expose some kind of heart to other people respond more to our honesty about our imperfections than they do about our perfections. This is what puts people sort of on a pedestal, and it's a far way to fall when you do that, because ultimately you're going to realize that everyone has judgments. Even your most revered guru has judgments because they're human, and it's part of being human. I don't think we ever stop judging. But when we're honest about our difficulties with other people and what they're going through, there's this sort of resonance that's very brave and very fragile at the same time, to bear witness, to listen to somebody's story with a whole heart and let them express their pain or their insecurity. I know it's fascinating that that's what really inspires and moves us to come back into the herd, into the tribe. So just know June is a beautiful opportunity to really look at how are you going to be the master manifester of your own life. You are a medicine woman or man. If you're listening to this, you know that you have alchemy, because you are literally spelling your reality into the world every time you speak against your joy body, against your body, David. And I went right into that again. You know, it's not like we get this and it's, you know, roses and sunshine and butterflies forever. We constantly trip and fall. And sometimes we do have to break down what we've built in order to rebuild something that's greater than it was before. And that's what's available to us all the time, not just for June, but because of this beautiful 8 landscape energy of this infinity sign of the 8. It's very magnetic right now, partly because things are going so fast. But you can process through energetic shifts. Those are the emotions, the thoughts, the feelings about your experiences, the stories that might have taken you days or weeks or months before, and now it's like instant. So instant, sometimes I've also had to ask to slow down and put some stops in to sort of psychic channeling from animals, and, you know, in my work where the information comes in so quickly, because with animals, it's a feeling sense. Words slow us down a lot. But, you know, it's part of our medicine is to spell into being, to weave this into a physical plane. And also, you know, be aware too, because this is one of the big wake-up calls that I got many years ago, is where I was beating myself up about why is it that I'm such a great starter, I'm a great leader, I bring things in, but I'm not very good at generating or keeping it going. And to stop beating myself and just go, you know what? That's where team comes in. That's where I need people who are great generators to maintain whatever it is that's being created. And that we all play our part in this. And I remember thinking, gosh, I've got all these unfinished books and all these, you know, all this written word and all these things that why am I never completing it? And I remember getting that download of, oh my gosh, so many nights where I was literally felt like I was working the whole night. That dolphin brain that loves to play, half of it's always awake. And I was completing so much in my sleep time, in my astral travel, that when I woke up, there was no need to complete it. The pressure was gone. And I used to then go, okay, did I just complete this? And when I got a yes, I could then ask my body, my physical body, to retain that information, even if it meant bringing it in backwards. Sometimes I used to write the words backwards so that I could share it with others. And I'm happy to say that works really, really well, because when we start sharpening our own internal spidey senses, right, the God bumps, when we listen to those, when we follow the unseen, then we can bring new creation in with it into physical form. You know, so who doesn't want to live that intensely? I certainly do. So, you know, just know that over the next few months, and we're also going into the mid-solstice, there's going to be this very amplified wave, of much heightened wave of creative connections. And for me, I'm excited about that, because I don't like playing on my own. I want playmates. And I want more people to share in that joy with me. So look at where are you not seeing beautiful co-creations or collaborations or connections with new people because you're so busy focusing on your own sort of mojo. Because people are waiting, people are waiting for you. And for me, it's one of the most beautiful things to know that I'm not alone. We're becoming more one as society, despite this whole division illusion of separation. This great separation sickness is very real. And it's our job to start to change that. So reconnect with yourself first. Gather your parts and pieces together. Reconnect in the family of origin of your bodies. Call in the ancestral helping spirits. Go listen to the show I did yesterday. Because now's the time that we come back together. And I love my tribe. I love you, Susie, Simone. I see Jenny here. I need to put my glasses on because I can't read this. But if you have any questions, I'll go back and answer them later. But yeah, those of you who know me by now, thank you for staying with me because I don't tend to do things quickly. I actually work them out loud as an auditory processor with you. And that for me gives me so much joy and so much deep appreciation that I have you with me to try and figure out this crazy thing called human being, human kindness, put some more kind back in there. And also, with this whole reconnection thing of looking at coming back to the soul tribe, know too, because this is the thing, is that we sometimes get so focused on looking for aligned relationships that on the way to get that, because, if I think about the people that are so precious to me, that have been through thick and thin with me, it's a handful of very special beings that have always seen me beyond my own limitations and stories, and me for them too. So just know that on your way, you're going to make connections that are painful. You're going to choose things in people, in relationship that maybe are not coming from love, that maybe have shame or a need to please or a greediosity in there. So, be aware of who you're calling into to be part of your life, because it's probably going to continue to stay like I have been in the shadows a little bit longer as part of our own reshaping and in this sort of ever-changing landscape of right relationship. Like I said, I'm half erected and half in shambles with unthinkable corners a lot of the time out there in the world. And I always sort of live by the thing of, if someone is really pissing me off or pushing my buttons, I need to spend more time in that energy, because the gifts often come in the discomfort more than they come with the easy relationships of people that just get you. And it's available for us to go and receive all of that. So just know, power and vulnerability are sort of the words that you can use as anchors as you move into June. And look at, where can you start to look at bringing your power back? Where can you do that? Or where are you doing that without this sort of level of fragility that is so vulnerable? Because in the old days, we were taught to celebrate versions of power that weren't vulnerable. They were very patriarchal, and we all can see it falling down. It's that kind of power that there was never any wiggle room. That allowed us to stumble and fall or make our mistakes, and take responsibility for that, to apologize and to forgive and to have compassion. This old dog eat dog reality, the competition, it's rife. It's still out there in the consciousness circles, because part of us are still awake, are still asleep. We're not all woken up, but there is a gift there. And my people are here. I see you and I honor you and I celebrate and I love you for delivering fierce medicine to me when I need it too. This is a give and a take. This is the energy dance between power and vulnerability. And it's happening in a very strong way in the sort of wider collectives now. So it's going to be showing up and it's going to be personal. So as much as we say don't take everything personally, we need to be personal. We need to be in relationship, interpersonal with our shadows and our light. You may be going through some of these power struggles with other people in your life, like I certainly have. But inside of that, it's personality. And we're all kind of on this journey, on this dance of coming into a deeper right relationship. We're not going to get it all right all at once. There's part of this process that is incredibly healing. And in us doing our inner work, we're healing that greater separation sickness, and we're contributing in a good way to soften and come back into compassion, into that lion heart where conflict and power struggle is so rife on our planet right now. So yes, do we feel disempowered? Do we feel like, what's the point? Do we feel like giving up? Absolutely. You may have lost your self-worth, or you may have forgotten just how powerful you are, but you're not. So do the work to bring it back and get the support. Because when these old ways start to release in us, that's the power of vulnerability. I don't know how we can be inspired and empowered if we're not being vulnerable. Someone judged me the other day to say, I've closed my heart and I'm so angry. And in that moment, I went into, ooh, really? Is that true? And then I had to sit with the parts that actually had closed and work with them. So, there's no right way to do this. There's just the opportunity to just keep evolving and growing. And to really look at those who deny their vulnerability are really going to struggle in the years to come with this wounded Chiron energy. So, invite it in, require it, demand it, and start being in it in a whole different way. Don't be surprised, as I said, if you go from feeling excited and elated and alive and so open to receiving, and then the next day you feel like so fragile that you're questioning your safety and you close your heart, because that's really what we're being thrown at the moment in the collective consciousness. And you might find that rather than pushing yourself forward with power in June and July, that you find yourself really getting curious and doing more of that compassionate inquiry, that deeper listening in yourself around, what does power mean to you? What does it mean to really be empowered, to trust yourself that you're enough, to trust that you are aligned and in resonance with where you're going, rather than all the stories that you've been fed over the years. And then look at the power of that as a connection point. I feel in my power, and I feel that we are all in our power when we're able to connect with what is exactly in front of me and us in this moment. Who is standing in front of me? What does the energy of that feel like? Because when I can do that, then we can tap into what makes us feel alive, right? Because I don't believe, that we're so much looking for the experience, as Joseph Campbell talks of being alive. And this is what horses and the animals have taught me, that life isn't so much about making sense of it all, but rather about how can I be present? How can I be my own present and give myself the presence to feel it? Does that make sense? I think this is the opportunity to get excited and to also feel a little bit terrified because we're rediscovering our ability to really be fully engaged in how to live deeply happy in our aliveness now, in this moment. That's all we've got. That's it. And to ask, when we screw up, because we will, and we make mistakes, and because we do, and when we feel ruined and that everything's falling apart around us, to know that you're not ruined. You're the one that experiences the falling down. So ask yourself, that old paradigm around power was, what's in it for me? What am I getting out of this? And I'm not safe if I'm not taking power over others, especially the way that we are with animals. Or I'm taking power from others. This isn't the new earth. The new earth is connection that can only come from trust. And trust in the vulnerable, fragile, soft-bodied horse parts of our fleshy human suits that are carrying us around the world. So I hope you spend some time this weekend and journeying into June, July with me to really look at, are you safe? Are you being looked after? Or are you draining your energy and being depleted in looking after others before you've filled yourself up? We can't be of service if we're drained. So those are some of the questions I'm asking myself and journaling about, and will continue to journey about. And just to sit with whatever comes up and be with it in a feeling state of the compassionate observer, the mother energy that nurtures and loves the frightened, scaredy cat parts of our child psyche. So just be mindful of that dance that you're doing between personal power, the collective potency of that, and also the vulnerability, how you're showing up, stripping away all the masks and the veils, and see yourself. We're never looking for ours. We're not looking at ourselves in a mirror. And to me, the mirror is the reflection of the beautiful, loving, kind, compassionate women that walk with lion hearts back at me. And I so appreciate that, to see the love that in others that I maybe cannot see in myself. So just be aware, that we are fragile. And yet we're so resilient and so much stronger than we give ourselves credit for. So use your heightened sensitivity at this time to take really good care of yourself, and and then you'll be able to take care of others as and when you need to, because you're strong in yourself. And just go from there and let me know how that is. And I'll leave you with that beautiful saying and I can't remember who says it, but that to be fully alive means that we keep constantly being thrown out of the nest. Constantly, these little, these little mini deaths, that we're actually traveling in no man's land. We are nomadics. We were born to move with the seasons, with the animals, across life. We weren't supposed to be confined to one space and one identity of that. And to live is to really be willing to die over and over again, because in every death there is a rebirth. And that is part of our evolution, to stop being afraid of death. Stop being the death of you. Don't die with your dreams inside, and go forth and be amazing, because you are. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday. I'm off to go get some beautiful fresh produce, because I'm starting a juice fast tomorrow. So if any of you want to join me on that, I'd love that. And know that you're loved. I love you. Have a good weekend wherever you are. Mwah. Bye-bye.